Hey everyone, Stephanie here again. So today I'm finishing up the tutorial on how to make the wrist lanyard out of paracord. I'll link the part 1 video to how I made this strap in case you're finishing that off with me. So today we're going to be creating the Turk's head knots, a 7-lead 4-bite Turk's head around this braided section at the top here. The tools I have for creating that is a lacing needle, a hemostat, which sometimes I use, sometimes I don't, so it might just be handy to have. Definitely a tightening tool or my Marlin spike. I specifically, again, like to use the one that has the top that comes off. You can store your lacing needles inside there, but I don't ever do that. I just use the spacer here, and I'll definitely be doing a lot of tightening with this end, so definitely a good friend to have on board. I'm also going to need a little knife. I'm choosing to do the Leatherman blades since they're really thin and get really close to the knot when it's time to cut that. And then of course you'll need some paracord. I've got 4.5 feet of gold paracord here, so let's get that out of the way and we're going to jump on in. So with the 4.5 foot strand gold, I'm going to put a lacing needle on one side. And we're going to take that strap that we've already created and that green mesa cord right there at the top. I'm going to kind of go through one side and out to the other so that it kind of goes through that loop in a crossing kind of fashion. So go just underneath that green mesa between the green cords and over to the other side. At this point you want to find the middle of that gold cord. Oh, it's pretty close. I'll just pull a little bit more. Yeah, I like that. And once I have that in there, I want to get both cords on the same side because I'm going to be kind of making the knot with one cord, and then I'm going to be taking the other to double it up. So I really just want both cords on the same side of that starting point. And I kind of just fold it over that. And then this can be a little tricky, but I like to put the Marlin spike spacer back in there. But now that I've kind of created that knot a little smaller over the braiding process of the strap and then putting this gold cord in there, it's going to be a really tight fit. So worst case scenario, make your loop really big to start. You can kind of fine tune the specifics later, the more that you do it. So a lot of times I try to get that cord underneath that spacer so that's kind of pushing down on it too. I don't think I'm going to really get it in there quite like I wanted it, but it's really just to keep that in place so that it'll easily go to this side when I go to make that knot. But that particular strand I'm not going to be using right now, so I'm going to keep that spacer in there, but put the spike to the side for now. And then creating that Turk's head, you're going to take the end that has your lacing needle on it, and we're going to go around that braided strap one time. Then you're going to bring it up and over that gold cord on itself, making like a little X here. Then you're going around the back again, bringing that forward and over the gold in the front there. So creating kind of two little X's. You want to keep this pretty loose as you go, but you also kind of want it pretty well, you know, not a ton of slack, because you kind of want to hold it in place and keep it a little bit more structured. So after going over the gold on that second wrap, we're going underneath this cord here and over the top of this cord on the left. And I'm really kind of just holding different points of the knot as I go. So I'm going to kind of hold right there where we just crossed over there, and then the cord goes around the back, and this is your standing end. So at this point, I'm going to take that lacing needle and go underneath that standing end. And we're going to follow that standing end again and just doubling that up. So right now it goes underneath this cord here on the top. So we're going to follow suit going under here. Make sure to get all your twists out as you go. Tightening and untwisting at the same time is very challenging. So we're following this bottom cord. It goes over the top of this gold one here. So we're going to keep going that way, but we're going to go underneath and exit the knot on this right cord. We're going to go underneath this cord to exit. And then as we turn it, we're still going to be following that cord we just went underneath, but now that same cord is transitioning upward toward the loop of the braid. So we're going to still follow this cord, and we're going to go underneath this cord here. And this cord goes over 2, so we're going to go over 2, but then we're going to exit that knot. So we're going over those 2 and under that one that we're following right here. So over 2 and under 1 to exit that knot. Then it's going to wrap around the back again, and we're coming back to that standing point. This point though, we're going over that standing end, so it's going to just kind of lay right over the top of that. Next, now that we doubled up those cords, we're going to kind of split them and go the opposite direction. So we're going over this one, but those 2 cords that we're splitting, we're going to go underneath that top cord or that upper cord. So it goes over that standing end, underneath the cord that we're splitting here on the top and the bottom, underneath that one. And now we just go the opposite direction of those 2 cords. So we're going over those 2 there, going underneath this one in the center, and then over that cord on the right. And again, as you twist it, that same cord that we're following is now going upward. That doubled side is right there next to it. We're doing the same thing. We're going to enter it going underneath that doubled up cord. And then splitting these 2 here, and we're going the opposite direction. So we came in under, we're going over this one and under this one. Keep kind of rotating and splitting a little bit here. I'm going to go over this one again and under this one. And then it goes over that very last cord as it exits the knot again. At this point, you pretty well have it tied, but you want to wrap it around again to the standing end. The standing end is right here. I'm going to run that through just below that standing end, but all the way down to the core, through the whole entire core of that knot, out to the other side. I've done this enough to not get too tripped up by running that cord through the center, but you do want to be careful because it looks like it's a cord that you would go under or over through. So that is the first pass, or the single version of a Turk's head knot. But I'm going to kind of pull a little bit of the spacing of this out a little. It's going to get significantly tighter as we double it up, and then I do probably about four rounds of tightening once I have it doubled. So it's not probably quite as loose as I want it, but I'll work through it. So really, to double it up, you put the lacing needle on the other side of the other cord there, and you literally do the same exact thing. So you can kind of see the cord that I have the lacing needle on is the same cord right here. It comes right underneath that green mesa, and that's your standing end. So I'm really just doubling up this whole entire knot. So I'm going under here. You can pay attention to that twist. The tighter you get it, almost the more impossible it'll be to unwind. And then this should be about my last pass. It gets a little crazy and bumpy on the very last one. Also can get pretty tight, so watch those fingers. And then we're coming back up to the point where we run it through the core, keeping the cord on the left side here. But again, this is also why you don't want to tighten it up too much as you go, because sometimes it is a little difficult to get that needle back through there. I'll kind of pull out that twist as I'm pulling it through the core there. And then I can take that lacing needle off, and the whole tightening process begins at this point. So I often will kind of tighten. This is another reason why I like that spacer in there. I know that that's the front of my braid, and I just know that the left side two lines right here are where my standing ends were. So you can actually kind of still see that cord coming through to that side there. So sometimes I'll tighten them just as two cords together. Other times I'll also pull out extra slack on one of those cords depending on where it's needed. So my tendency when tightening is, when you think that you have gotten your last round of tightening done, do another one. I end up thinking that I have it just exactly where I want it, and then I could have gotten more slack out. So definitely tighten, tighten, tighten. I'm going to speed this up, show you what it looks like after about 4 rounds of tightening, and then I'll show you my little trick on how to make it super nice and smooth. So catch you in a bit. Okay, so after many rounds of tightening, you can still see it's pretty lumpy. I probably could try another round of tightening, but it's pretty darn solid in there. Like, it's not squishy at all. The one thing I failed to mention at the beginning of the video of what I use also is actually a cutting board. I use it kind of more like a rolling pin on this knot, since I don't have a rolling pin, and this is a little bit of a better surface to be using for this too. I really just use that to roll the knot more uniform. I still keep my spacer in there for the time being, because as you're kind of pushing and rolling on that, it will kind of loosen, or not loosen up that loop, but it will kind of make it a little bit smaller. So really I'm just applying a lot of pressure, rocking back and forth in some spots where I feel those bumps, but I'm overall trying to get a lot of pressure put on that. Most times I use a corner of a table so I can kind of put my weight into it and keep rolling. So really that's what I'm gonna do next here, and I'll show you what that outcome looks like. So after rolling it out a little bit, you can tell it's definitely got more uniform, not quite as lumpy as it was, but I personally is still not as satisfied with it, so I'm going to take the Marlin spike to it again and tighten that up, pull a little bit more of the slack out, and then we'll cut and stuff those end cords in there. You don't want to do that too early so that you can't pull the slack out of your knot, but you also try not to do that too late when you cut that, because otherwise this knot gets so tight and it's hard to push those strands back in there. So I'm going to try one more round of tightening, and then I'll cut those pieces off there. All right, another round of tightening done. You can tell it kind of got a little bit lumpy again, so I'm gonna roll that out again, but I want to cut off the excess cords because I don't think I'm gonna get another round of tightening done on this. So I got my Leatherman with the thin blades to cut these cords off. I kind of try to bend that strap down a little bit, pulling that excess cord away from that knot. And I try to just get those blades as close to the end of that knot as possible. Don't cut your fingers. And I'm not going to burn and singe that because I really don't have a reason to do it. And if I get too close with that flame, I'm going to burn all the stuff I created. So I kind of just take my Marlin spike and I try to lay it on top of that sheath as I'm pushing down and pushing down into the core of that knot to kind of hide those pieces. I'm using a fair amount of pressure, so again, always be careful of where your fingers are, where your tools are. Don't cut, burn, or stab yourself. So I'm gonna work on getting this kind of stuffed in here, and then I'm gonna roll out the knot again, and we'll see how that looks at the end. Okay, so I did end up taking this over to the corner of the table that I usually use just to put a little bit more elbow grace in rolling that knot out. As you can tell in the tutorial, I'm also usually hammering on that knot as well, just to kind of get out some of the bigger bumps that are out of place there. Not always is it going to look completely perfect, but I just kind of do it until I feel pretty proud about it. I think there's also some cords that end up looking a little bit nicer with this knot than others, just if it's like a nylon cord or a polyester random cord that I have, probably won't come out just as nice. But that is what the final piece of a wrist lanyard looks like. The 7-lead 4-bite Turk's head with the 4-strand round braid wrist strap. So I hope this has been very helpful for you today. I'm going to have the part 1 video linked in the description below, and I'll have like links of where I've gotten cords and stuff like that as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to comment below or message me on any social platforms that I'm on. And if you happen to watch this video and like this exact piece, if it's available, let me know that you saw this video and would like it, and I'll give you a little discount. So a little incentive for my thanks for watching the video and spending some time with me today. But I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you next time.